Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Today I've got two replays in the French tier 10 heavy tank, the AMX M4 54. Now if you haven't guessed by the title, as always this is the third mark of excellence video for the tank, so the game's proceeding to and achieving the third mark of excellence. And I actually did this the week or two after they changed the MOE requirements and stuff like that. And it was a royal pain to get. This tank was just horrendous to get because it was already fairly difficult before because it's not the best of tanks. It has a lot of weaknesses that can be exploited by most other tanks, and it gets wrecked by a lot of other heavies as well. One thing it has got is mobility, which is quite nice, and pretty decent turret armor if you hold down, but the rest of the tank is a bit ew, really. And before the MOE changes, you needed about 4.4, 4.5 to sort of go up a decent amount. After the MOE changes, you know, to be able to get just what you needed, it was like 5k. Well, it was about 5.5k, something like that, to go up like 0.1. It was horrendous. It was a horrendous grind to get. And yeah, this tank has definitely been left behind, especially with all the buffs and changes to all the new, well, not new, but all the other tanks. And it desperately needs some love. But I will stress that their hint to what the next buffs are to a tank series or tank line is hefty baguettes. So I'd say, yeah, the next line to be buffed will be this AMX M4 line, which the line definitely needs it because it's got one or two stinkers in it, like the AMX 65T, and this tank is not that great at tier 10 and just needs a little bit of love to just give it something, because it's kind of painful at times. Just because the armor doesn't really work, and while the gun is pretty accurate and pretty nice, the reload compared to a lot of other heavy tanks, especially like the E5, Super Conqueror, Chieftain, you know, other heavy tanks with 400 alpha, the reload is just a little bit disappointing. So, the crew I run on the tank, I run Born Leader, Rapid Reload, Sixth Sense, Situational Awareness, Steady Aim, Track Mechanic, Run and Gun, Snapshot, and Armour Angling. Now, I run Armour Angling because this tank tends to take a lot of hits and it tends to get penned a lot. So it's nice to be able to reduce the alpha of the tanks coming in, especially when you can't reliably block the shots that are coming in. And I like that. But I will say that you could also run the fire prevention perks or the firefighting perk. I would highly recommend that you probably run those or Armour Angling, one of those or Armour Angling, because this tank also loves to get set on fire. If it gets shot in the back end of the side or even just in the side, it gets set on fire. It's a pain. You could even look at the, I think Safe Storage is still a perk. You could run something like that as well, because it also loves to get ammo racked, which is horrendous. Like I said, the big problem with this tank is that it's big. Its DPM isn't that good with 400 alpha compared to most other tanks at the tier. Its armour doesn't hold up that well, although we've blocked a decent amount so far in this game. Generally, its armour just tends to become Swiss cheese because the cheeks on the sides, on the front, it's just not good. They're just horrendous. There's something that they buffed with the Andre the Giant, and I'm really hoping that they buff the side cheeks on this upper front plate like they have on the Andre, just so that it has that. Although the Andre the Giant really needs some love as well, because that tank's dreadful. But yeah, so I really hope with the hefty baguettes that they've suggested are going to get buffed, that this gets at least a slight reload buff, maybe not a massive one, but just a slight one, and then some changes to the armor profile, like I said, the side cheeks being buffed, and I don't know, maybe a little bit more front turret armor, something like that. Maybe even helping the mobility a little bit, because one of the strengths of this tank is its mobility. It gets up to 40 kilometers an hour and it can hit it really easily, to be perfectly honest. And what they need to do is, this gun needs a bit of a DPM, make it better, make it more competitive compared to a lot of other tanks. But the 130mm that this tank gets definitely needs some love. It really does. So in this game that you're seeing right here, on Kaunas, we've done 6.3k damage, 117 assistance, we've blocked a fair amount, it's equal on teams at the minute, and I'm just trying to fight it out here with a load of tanks. That T100LT tried to slam on the brakes, managed to ram himself on our side there, finishes himself off on us, which means we get to finish off the chisel. Now we're going after this medium tank that's attacking our gorilla. And the gorilla shuts him down, the FV402P, so we don't actually get there to get a shot into him. There's 2 tanks left. There's a medium tank in their spawn area and a heavy tank that's currently being closed down by a heavy tank and a TD. The likelihood of me getting there, even though the AMX M4 has got good mobility, very unlikely. But, yeah, we're not going to get there. But yeah, this tank, it needs that little bit extra. And honestly, the MOE changes made this grind just, oh, it made it so painful. Basically, what happened to me with this tank is I had it at 94%. Then they changed the MOE requirements, and it dropped to 87%. Number one, that was painful, especially since I'd worked my ass off to get it up to 94%, and I left it on the Monday and thought, oh, I'll come back to it like tomorrow or the day after or whatever, and then I'll finish it off. And then they changed the MOE requirements, and it dropped. We finished that game, by the way, with 4 kills, 6.3k damage, the ace tanker, high caliber, 1505 base XP, which is nice. But yeah, so I came back to it, worked it up, and from 87% to 95%, it took me another 100 games. It took me another 100 games, averaging 5k. Which is crazy. Because if we're averaging 5k, that means obviously we're having some sucky games. You expect to drop on sucky games. But generally I was having some really good games as well. And I was getting like 7k, 7.5k combined, stuff like that. And I was only going up like 0.3, 0.4. And it was just disgusting, to be honest. It was horrible. It's demoralising, I think, is the thing. And I think that's one of the painful things about the MOEs since they changed them. And the MOEs are really funky at the minute. It seems to be like some tanks don't seem that bad to actually do, and then other tanks just seem absolutely impossible to even achieve. They're horrendous. And it is demoralising because when you do 8k damage and get 0.3 improvement, which is what I was getting on this tank, where before the MOE changes, that was probably 1%, right? 0.3 for 8k. And then I do 4k, right, this was the painful thing. Doing 4k dropped me by about 0.4, 0.3, 0.4. So I had to have a tremendous game to gain 0.3, but a game that was probably average for a tier 10 actually dropped me by near enough the same amount as getting 8k. And that's what makes the MOE changes just demoralising. Like, sure, they should be hard, and that's the way it is with the tier 10s, right? They should be difficult because they're MOEs. The whole point of that is to be better than 95% of players. But the sort of punishment for having drops like that and it just doesn't make it fun. And it is, like I say, I think the word is demoralising for it, to be honest. And it means that you just go, oh, can I be bothered to go for that MOE? No, not really, because I just can't be bothered to deal with having a fantastic game, not really gaining anything, not getting anything out of it, and then having a sort of bang average game, or a game where the team collapses in about 4 minutes, which happens all the time, and you don't really get that much out of it. And yeah, drop the same amount as what a tremendous game gets me. That's just how it is. So, anyway, the MOE changes. Frustration. That's what it is. This game, we're on Kasserine. Not Kasserine. This is El Alamein. 2 desert maps. Same thing. El Alamein. And we've got Encounter. And we've come to this area here. And I thought I'd come here because this would be the best place to get into a brawl. Get stuck in, have tanks in front of me, and just keep being able to work them over with the gun. So we're up to 1800 damage, and this 279E is on my flank. Now that is, he is in an annoying place. I thought he might be getting dealt with if he was there, but it's not quite happened yet. And he's just in the back of my mind. I'm keeping him there. We've loaded premium because I want to be able to pen this 279E if he decides to charge in, which is exactly what is happening if you're watching the map behind us. Because if I don't have the premium in, I'm probably not going to pen this 279E. We managed to auto aim a shot through his upper plate there. We switched back to the AP because we don't need the APCR anymore. He got absolutely wrecked because he rushed into a silly place. Looking for the shot on the 705. Unfortunately, ricochet off his upper plate. It was just bad timing with how he came down there off that ledge. I'm just looking to finish him off. We unfortunately do track damage only on his side, which is really sad timing again because he just angled well enough then. We've ricocheted off his lower plate because angling is a problem. We were shooting down on a really well angled plate. We make sure though that we're going to get that shot into his drive wheel, finish him off. Great, that's the 705 dealt with. It was a bit of an awkward moment, but we dealt with it. We're up to 3k damage with 630 assistance, and for reference, by the way, before this game I was at 94.97, and I was like, God damn it, I'm so close. I can't do just a 4k damage game and drop. I can't have this. So I'm really desperately wanting this damage, and we get a nice shot into the Conway. Unfortunately, it's an extreme low roll. The Conway gets set on fire, and at this point I'm cursing my luck. But I actually got the tracking there, and I did get tracking. None of it's spotting. It's all tracking assist that I've had, because I tracked the ISM and stuff like that. So we're actually on 4.5k combined. So we're probably, at this point I'm thinking, because the MOE changes, I'm still not sure, and the fact that we're so new and early into the MOE changes. But at this point I'm thinking, I probably, with only been 0.03 off, I probably only need like one more shot of damage. So I just want to get the shot on this artillery. So we prop over, get the auto-aim shot in, set him on fire, finish him off. 3.8k damage, 12k, I wish it was 12k assistance, 1200 assistance. So we're up to 5k combined. There's 3 tanks left, there's 2 TDs and a light tank. And at this point I'm thinking, well, 5k combined. 5k was about 0.1, it felt like at the time. And I'm thinking, I've surely got it with this. I think I've got it with this. I don't know. I'm desperate to get into a position to get another shot. There's the 2 TDs. That one YOLO's out in front of the mediums and gets shut down. There's still the light tank somewhere. There's the other TD, and I'm just like, please let me get another shot. But the Rhinoceronte shuts down the FV4005. There's another light. I say another light tank. The light tank is chasing down our artillery. But there's no one around him, so I'm thinking, oh, there's a possibility I'll get there and get a shot at him. The 1390 fishes off the GW Tiger, and I'm kind of hoping that he's got health. But at this point, we're just chasing after a light tank, which, you know, can be a bit painful. In fact, he's only got 43 health, which is not all that helpful for my MOE grind. But this is where sort of, you know, the AMX M4 54 can be a little bit better than some of the other heavy tanks, right? Because the mobility on this tank is probably what I'd say is one of its strengths. It is pretty nice, and you can get about pretty reasonable with it compared to others like the U5, which is 35 kilometers now. This is 40, and it does hit 40. We managed to snap the shot into the AMX 1390 there, finish him off, and we'll finish with the victory. We'll finish with 4 kills, 3.8k damage, 1200 assistance. And it was enough. We got the ace tanker and the third mark of excellence, and I'll tell you what, it was 95.01. So we went up 0.4 for 5.1k there in a tank that is just not that good. So, yeah. We end up with the third mark of excellence in the AMX M4 54. It was a pain in the arse to get. It's not that great a tank. I hope it gets a good buff in the future. So as always, everybody, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.
A great success!